This is a message for the leadership of YouTube. Frankly, I probably could have called you privately, but I think it's better to just talk about this in the open on this particular issue. My understanding is in the last 24 hours, you locked the accounts and shut down the accounts of two guys, Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones. They have big followings on the American right. I think it's better if you just unlock those accounts and let the guys be heard. And I say this not because I'm some particular fan or vice versa. At least one of them, Nick, is probably not a particularly big fan of mine. No more than Jimmy Kimmel is, by the way, for very different reasons. That's beside the point. It doesn't matter. The reason I'm asking you to do it is that censorship isn't good for America. It's antithetical to our culture. And we're the country on God's green earth where we're able to talk to each other in the open. And I want to credit YouTube and Google and your parent company and so much of your competitors in Silicon Valley for creating the first instance of the free and open internet with search engines. It's a beautiful thing for democratizing speech. But I think we take a step in the wrong direction when we choke those same technologies that allow us to access open debate and open ideas. It breeds discontent. It breeds frustration. It actually breeds mistrust. If you tell people they can't speak, that's when they scream. And if you tell people they can't scream, that's when they tear things down. So I think free speech is a precondition for peace. It's a precondition for the scientific method. It's a precondition for our shared unity, our shared national identity as Americans. Now, I can understand why you might think that certain types of speech or certain things that are said that are hurtful to other people or that may spread misinformation or may they count as violent or dangerous threats shouldn't be allowed on your platform. I personally take a broad view of what type of speech is an expression of an opinion that's protected, but that's a separate discussion about whether somebody says a particular thing that you think doesn't belong on your platform. That's one category of speech moderation. There's a different category of saying that you may demonetize certain people. You're not going to pay them, that even if they're able to speak on your platform, it's not necessarily their right to be paid for doing so or putting advertisers next to their name. That's a separate discussion. Personally, I don't like any of those forms of speech suppression as a general matter, but at least those are discussions that reasonable minds can have. There's a whole separate third category of censorship, though, that I think is particularly harmful, which is the idea that just because of who you are, your name and who you are, you don't get to express any idea, whether it's misinformation, hateful speech, whether it's dangerous or whatever you deem it to be. Irrespective of that, you're not making that judgment. Just based on who you are, you don't get to speak. I think that breeds mistrust. I don't think that's good for our country. There's legal arguments to be had. I've made legal arguments elsewhere in my books, in Wall Street Journal pieces, and there are legal arguments that you could construct that say that if a tech company is protected by Section 230, a government-created shield of immunity, that if a tech company is responding, even indirectly, to the threats of government officials, maybe that is actually even a legal First Amendment violation. That's not even what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about is not a legal point. It's just a cultural point. It's the question of whether this is good or bad for America. And I think we live in a moment right now where when we tell people, whether it's the government or even a powerful company, when you tell people that because of who you are, you deserve not to be heard, I think that actually divides us. Even if it's done with the best of intentions of thinking it brings most of the rest of the country together, in the long run, it actually throws kerosene on the very flame you were trying to quash. And so that's my ask to you. I'm not trying to do this in some type of faux indignation, angry way that escalates some political fight. That's not the goal. I actually think that it's often possible to get to the right answer through just reasonable, open dialogue. That's what I hope this is. I hope you're able to reconsider a decision that you made that may have been a wrong decision. And I think we need more space as a country when people do make a wrong decision to be able to be given an off-ramp, to be able to say that, you know what, after thinking about it, yeah, we agree, we're persuaded that all else equal, even though we intended well, we ought to let people speak and be heard. That's what I hope happens here. And so my ask is, and again, speaking as a guy who, from Jimmy Kimmel to Nick Fuentes, probably don't like me very much. I don't care. That doesn't matter. It's not what this is about. It's not even about the content. It's about the principle. I'd ask you to restore the accounts of those guys, and believe me, it will be a down payment on beginning to reunite this country, a project on which we have yet a very long way to go. Thanks a lot for considering.
So YouTube has responded after Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones did a stress test, as they called it, by making a new YouTube account. It lasted, I believe, 12 hours before they both got deleted. And YouTube got a lot of flack for it over on X, and they responded with a social media post. This was before Vivek even made this video, and it said, "We've previously terminated creators who started some new channels. To clarify, our pilot program on terminations is not yet open." So they had a huge revelation as they were getting probed by the government that, yes, they were censoring everybody under the Biden administration. Yes, they did take down a bunch of channels that weren't actually talking in any misinformed way, malinformed, no hate speech, nothing, mostly related to COVID-19 and the election results. A lot of that stuff got unearthed during the probe into Google and YouTube, working with the Biden regime and Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg has admitted as much, but they continue saying that it is against our community guidelines for previous terminated users to use, process, or create channels. So in accordance with those guidelines, they terminated the channels. But they just basically did an apology to the government saying that, yes, in fact, we did. And we're going to work with government and with the people to no longer censor voices and make sure that this never happens again. And it was wrong that we did this, and the government shouldn't be pressuring us to do this, and we should be an open platform where speech is allowed. Okay. Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes started a channel. Both of them got terminated immediately. Then they gave a bullshit response, pretty much saying, well, our pipeline for returning these channels that were previously banned is not up and running yet. What pipeline do you need? And then Vivek Ramaswamy came with the video you just saw saying, if we're going to do the free speech thing, then just do the free speech thing already. Let these ideas out in the open. Let these people speak so that their arguments can be deconstructed. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, just like I say. I don't agree with the Jimmy Kimmel thing where he got taken off his cable program. I don't agree with silencing these people that say or dance or are happy about Charlie Kirk's death. Do you know why? Because bringing them out into the fold, seeing who they really are, allows them to not dig themselves into those black, dark holes where they come out the other side extremists and start shooting people. I think the punishment for the people who do abhorrent things on the internet, say abhorrent things, should just be social repercussions, not governmental, not institutional, and not by these platforms either, because then they need to lose their Section 230 if they're going to curate speech and what's called or what's talked about on the platform. So if somebody says something disgusting like dancing around because Charlie Kirk got shot, then absolutely you should be able to call the person's job, look at what these people are doing. Is this who you want working here? Are you okay with this person that's willing to do this abhorrent thing and say these abhorrent things? Do you want them representing your company? Is that the culture of the company that you're pushing? And have the social repercussions of dealing with that. Because we need to return to a more civilized, civic society with some manners, right? Some self-respect for ourselves, but others in society, respect for everybody else. So when you do or say some things like that, that intentionally inflame people, especially during a heightened sense of, emotional awareness, because of obviously it was so fresh that it just happened, and then the next second they're dancing, then yeah, there should be social repercussions. We should outcast the people socially that say and do disgusting things, but you shouldn't ban them. Just like he said, if you ban these people, they become more intense in their beliefs. Then they feel like the system is against them. Then they feel vindicated that their beliefs must be true if they're being silenced. If I'm getting censored, it's because it's the truth. We've heard that in the last couple of years. They're only censoring the truth. If it's a lie, they leave it up. So then you further indoctrinate and radicalize these people who have ideas that could be completely deconstructed out in the open by anybody with half a brain, willing to debate them and show the hypocrisy of their argument. This is how you get rid of these extremists. This is how you tone the temperature down. When you ban these people like Alex Jones, Nick Fuentes, whoever else that they've banned, my channel got personally affected. We'll talk about that later in a live stream. This YouTube censorship was one of the big topics that I had already. I just had some things going on. Didn't have enough time to get on the live stream. But when you push these people into these fringes, this is how you create this extremist and embolden all of them. It's very simple, man. Let everyone speak. We could then have a conversation. We can then meet somewhere in the middle, and we don't have to get radicalized. It's not YouTube's job to censor people on the platform. It's not YouTube's job to do the government bidding. And conservatives or liberals, Democrats or Republicans, shouldn't be pushing each other for censorship. It's not fun when it's happening to you. Now that conservatives are kind of doing the cancel culture thing, especially with Charlie Kirk. Now, all of a sudden, the liberals don't like it. Now, the libs and Democrats are like, this is an assault on free speech. Where was that assault on free speech when Biden was trying to create a ministry of truth? Where was the assault on the free speech for when they were deplatforming the president of the United States off Twitter? Where was the freedom of speech then when you got banned off YouTube, just like I did, personally affected, for simply stating things like, hey, the Pfizer CEO wasn't allowed to travel outside of the country because he didn't get his shot for COVID. Why would the CEO of all people not get a shot for the most important pandemic that we're dealing with in recent memory? Another video that got flagged was, why was there a option for Congress, for all the people in the government, to waiver getting the jab? While every one of us were mandated, they had a waiver on the mandate. They didn't have to get the jab, but we all did. You remember that? So how many people lost their jobs and all that? And by the way, going back to this whole YouTube censorship stuff, there needs to be more than simply saying, because clearly they're not doing anything if they ban these channels. There needs to be restitution for thousands of creators. Thousands. I mean, YouTube is liable and should be liable in a civil action lawsuit for hundreds of millions of dollars, most likely in income and business loss. It takes a long time to create an audience and get a consistent business and all this stuff. And for it to be taken down at a government request because the narrative isn't just adding up, it's not being supported. Hey, maybe masking doesn't do nothing. Maybe pretending that putting on this mask when we're walking into our restaurant seats, but then taking it off to eat while we're all in the same little box anyways, maybe that looks like bullshit. Maybe the 6-foot distancing is bullshit. That's not how germs actually work. That's not how you spread germs. They don't magically, while you're eating, not go and infect other people as you're breathing on, munching on food and talking to people at the table. And then you put your mask back on to go to the bathroom as if it's somehow saving everybody. It's a joke. It was a joke the entire time. We understood that this didn't make scientific sense with the reality of what we know about germs and how they spread. People started reporting being vaccine injured. Now it's all that's being talked about: myocarditis, excess deaths, all that stuff. YouTube was culpable in all of this stuff on the behest of the government. And I want to see from this committee that's been questioning YouTube, I want to see fines. I want to see arrests. And I'll talk about it more on the stream. And I want to see the Biden administration and any official that was pressuring social media, big tech, any company to toe the narrative line, violating the First Amendment rights. I want them in jail. They need to be in prison. The companies need to be fined, and this loophole needs to be closed permanently so that neither Democrat or Republican can do this again in the future. There should be if an American is watching this and listening, your freedom is at stake. Your First Amendment was directly challenged by a president of the United States. They tried to create a ministry of truth for misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation, limiting your free speech. They pressured big tech into taking away your ability to speak, and they will do it again. Maybe in the future it'll be somebody else that's a Republican that won't care about this sort of censorship and freedom of speech and will use it to advance their agenda. Maybe in the future it'll be a Democrat. Maybe whoever it is, team left, team right, it doesn't matter. One day this will be turned on you. One day you might not agree with the policies being passed in the near future, or your children might not agree, and they're then targeted for unpersonhood in the digital space and maybe arrested. We have to think about this in a long-term picture down the line, 10, 20, 30 years. It seems like a win right now, but if we don't get actionable punishment, real-world consequences for companies, the CEOs, and the government officials that were implicated in all of this, it's all for show. This is all theater. And we will one day suffer from this because government does not give up power. Once it gains a little bit, it keeps it permanently. That's what tends to happen at the detriment of everybody else. That's why you cannot allow them broad, sweeping powers, censorship, anything like this. There will always be loopholes. This is unconstitutional. I think that's my 2 cents on it. We'll go deeper into this on the live stream and some other topics as well. Anyways, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you, everybody that's been buying the hats and all the t-shirts as well. Links in the description below. Get yours, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.